Welcome here, Tuesday night, 8 o'clock. I am thrilled. You can already see on your screen the man, the myth, the legend, Mark Gould is
Oh,
here as my guest tonight. And Mark, really, really glad you're here. Um, but before we talk to you and all the interesting things that you've done and continue to do, I want to recognize Austin Custom Brass as this month's sponsor for these live events. And of course, this month has been terrific as we started out with Eric Miyashiro. That was fantastic. Let's see who was after that. This other guy. Oh, that's the guy in front of us. Oh, this is out of order. That's fine. This is great. Gabriel DiMartino coming up this Sunday night, 8 p.m. Gabriel's going to be a great guest. And then, of course, last Saturday morning, I had Sergey on, and that and Eric's interviews, along with everybody else's, are available on the YouTube channel. So once the live interview's done, if you've missed it or you want to go back and catch something again, you can always go to the YouTube channel and check it out there. Um, let's see. So again, Austin Custom Brass, Trent Austin. If you guys don't know Trent or his business, you need to, well, you can't miss him on social media. He's everywhere. And Trent's a great guy. You can, of course, go to austincustombrass.biz. Contact me if you need more information on that. Let's see. One other thing here. Mark, I don't know. You might like this. These are some shirts I came up with recently.
oh
And
my.
yeah, it says, "We will not be silenced." This is the World Trumpet Force, the WTF.
World Trumpet Force. I like that. Very good.
Yeah, thank you. So there's that one. And then this
Good.
one is Ventilabis Magis, which translates blow harder. It's,
Uh-huh.
yeah, I thought it's a pretty good mantra for,
You're
you
you're rolling with merch.
know, yeah, we got to do something, right?
Well, it's
Um,
funny you talk about Trent Austin. So everybody, you should be in touch with Trent Austin because Trent Austin is really, I would call him trumpet in the best sense, trumpet crazy. He's trumpet crazy. He's a fantastic player, builder, maker of mouthpieces. Um, Knows a lot about a lot of different instruments. So, I mean, that's a very good place to go for all kinds of things with Trent Austin. I love Trent.
Well, and it's funny. All his stuff that he puts on Instagram and Facebook, it could be anywhere from like a 2-minute demo from one of these vintage trumpets or cornets that comes through a shop, or like a full blown demo. I mean, the man knows an awful lot about trumpet, and the thing is, he makes it fun to share. So, yeah, Trent's a great guy. Let's see. Did I take care of all the stuff? I did. Oh, I wanted to let everybody know too. This week's radio show, Thursday night, 8 p.m. It's going to feature my interview with Tina Helseth, and of course, like with all the radio shows, I'm able to actually cut in music, not just dialogue like this, but WICR 88.7 FM also available on iHeartRadio app, and that's Thursday night at 8 p.m. And I think that's good for now. Let's get down to talking some trumpet with Mark Gould. So, Mark, again, welcome. Glad you're here.
Pleasure to be here, Larry.
Um, I have watched you. It sounds like a stalker, right? I have watched you from afar for a long time.
Uh-huh.
Um, I think one of the things that sticks in my head, of course, is this one video talking to God, talking to
Mom
God.
5. Yeah, yeah.
And it's brilliant, and as tongue in cheek as some people might think that is, I thought the stuff that you put out there is like, this is the real deal. This is really how you get to the nuts and bolts of these pieces.
Well, I mean, thank you for saying that. I mean, it may be, but it's also since I hear players play these excerpts all the time, they become like a meaningless series of notes because they play them so often. So to add a little levity to these excerpts like Petrushka or Mahler 5 or Zarathustra, it's like taking a breath of air, breath of fresh air. I mean, that's the way I saw it. Now, the Mahler 5 one, like the way we, think these up. Now, who is your audience? I mean, 12-year-old boys sitting there with their parents, boys and girls,
No.
just like trumpet degenerates or who tune into your show. I mean, which way, what is it? Who's your audience? Because it depends how explicit I can be about how these things come to fruition. Or do you want to hear the G-rated version? So it's like, oh, well, we sat around and thought this. No, we were like, well, you can cut this out, right? Or this is live.
This is live, but you're good. I don't think there are any 12-year-olds watching this
No,
right
like,
now.
we were, I go out to Oregon, with my partner, Brian McWhorter. We're talking about, okay, well, I got some stuff for this video. And I said, well, I have this line, talking to God, I have that. I have this thing. And then we're in his garage, fooling around. And, we're stoned out of our minds. And he picks up the Sawzall, and I said, that's it. We'll play the Sawzall. We'll do Mahler 5 on the Sawzall. Done, video, middle, beginning, and end. So then we had it. So it's like great fun, that kind of creativity. If something clicks, like the idea is good all the way through. Okay, then it's good and not
Yeah.
too.
And you guys were into making videos long before the pandemic, provided the opportunity to ever.
Yeah, it's like about 12 years now, 12 or 13.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
been doing that, and making shows and writing stuff. So we've been
Yeah.
doing.
That Mahler 5 is a good segue, and of course, I told you we're gonna definitely promote your book. I'm gonna throw that here on the screen. Gould on Music, and I've got the hard copy myself to prove it. It's right here. Here's my camera. I've read it. I've got my digital copy. Actually, I downloaded that while I was waiting for this to arrive in the mail, and oh my gosh! Well, uh, first of all, tell everybody where they can find the book.
It's at qpress.ca. Q, the letter Q, press at CA. That's it. You can order,
Yeah,
or
and
on
and of course,
markgouldtrumpet.com. You can get it there as well.
yeah.
Order.
And I tell you, what great reading. It's kind of ironic too that we're talking today. I think, Peter Bond just released his book in
Right,
the
right.
last few days. So it's like, when's Pendolph, when are the rest of the guys going to start putting their books out? Because obviously you had way too much time in the pit.
Oh my. Well, Peter, Jim Pandolfi. This is a crew. I mean, the opera crew. We had a good time.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. We did the best we could with what.
Well, so back to the book. I read it, and there are two things, man, Mark, that stand out right away. One is swing. I
Right,
don't think I'll ever personally think about any genre the same way again. And the other is about taking risks, about being on the edge.
right,
And I'm thinking that's to me those are huge. And I went back and read the part about swing. I don't know how many times over and over. I'm thinking, I get it, but how do you communicate that to somebody who thinks you're talking just about jazz?
well, I could sing a lot of things to you. So, for example, if I sang Washington Post March to you, I said, but I'm going to swing it, but at quarter note equal 100 instead of 120. Now, this is very possible to do it. So I can get it in sort of a pocket there. Or else I could play it faster and play it on top of the time. But it's just a question. I would practice singing the things. So I could sing any passage to you anyway, because I could hear it a lot of different ways. But it's basically when you look at a piece of music, right? You look at it and go like, oh, right, it looks like it goes like this about this fast, right? You evaluate that. Like yourself, you look at a piece, and it's like, well, it looks like it could go this fast.
Hmm.
To work for me. It worked for me or work for the tempo. It's always flexible. You can hear things at many different tempos, that sort of thing. And I mentioned that in the book about, practicing things at different tempos, really significantly different tempos,
Hmm.
and make it
Uncomfortable.
Yeah, and make it sound good at that tempo. Not mechanically slower, but sound good at that tempo and really get it to be musical. And that also will change the way you think about a lot of things. If you
Where
hear,
did where did you come with when did you come to this idea of using the word swing to attach to that?
well, I mean, this Duke Ellington don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. That applies to anything, right? I mean,
Yeah, but I mean, how you came to applying it to classical music.
well, I've always been told that by players I respected.
Hmm.
There was a flute player in the Met, Jimmy Politis, when I first got to them. Man, he would say that, very erudite man. And he would say that. He says, don't mean a thing, but ain't got that swing. That's
Mhm.
Mozart for sure. Or Baroque music. I mean, if it's not swinging, I mean, I don't really, it's not that interesting. It could be correct, but if it has you're really playing the groove hard. I mean, this is fantastic. Well, and we've all been in performances like that where it's like, oh, the band is rocking. It's like sort of in a place where that's right. It feels good to everybody. Everybody's feeling good and feeling it. Doesn't happen all the time, but it can happen.
Um, you think audiences pick up on that when something's in the groove, when something's happened?
Immediately, immediately. Look at live performances of a group like Queen
Hmm.
with Freddie Mercury. It's like of that genre of music. And, I mean, it's not my music. It's, after my time, but I would go back and listen to this because I was talking to Gaunch, and Gaunch is a big Queen freak, Thomas Gaunch.
Yeah.
And he's of that age that he grew up with that. I didn't grow up with that. So I said, all right, I'll check it out. But watching Freddie Mercury, the swing of that whole thing and swinging with the audience, oh, yeah, genius, great. In classical music, you'd take a singer like Cecilia Bartoli.
Be
So,
still my heart, right?
so Cecilia Bartoli, she could do all the Rossini. She would sing Rossini at the opera, the Met, or on any of her records. And you don't need a conductor because her groove is so hard and so swinging and perfect that everybody, you can just stand there. The conductor doesn't really have to do anything. It's like right in a pocket, and she gets it right there, right on the top of everything. So
You
that's a
know, she looks like she is just enjoying every moment on stage too.
that I couldn't swear to that. I've never seen singers really, other than ready to cower under the bed in terror before they go out on the stage singing an opera. Oh, I mean, my first year at the opera, I mean, I'll tell you this story. Franco Corelli. And Franco Corelli was a very, very famous tenor, like in the 1960s, 60s. And he was at the end of his career when I joined in 1974.
Mhm.
And the first time I saw him, I was standing backstage playing a stage band in Turandot at the Met. I'm standing backstage and I see Franco Corelli with his overcoat on running for the fucking exit. And the stage manager grabs him and just said, Franco, no, you got to go on. He was in such terror, and then they pushed him out on the stage, and
That
he,
stuff really happens.
oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's like, just so nerve wracking, nerve wracking doing that stuff. All the singers, it's like, makes them very uptight. Um, and some of the singers, if they're perfectionists, it's like almost not worth it. Judith Blagan, the great soprano, she was a leading singer at the opera in the 70s. Like, she just stopped singing because she didn't like the pressure. She said she couldn't stand it anymore.
Oh,
You
it's
know,
like Glenn Gould, right? In the public performances.
well, that's another level because he felt that he only could say what he had to say most clearly in a recorded medium. And I
Mm.
respect that. It's another level. He's not just stage fright. He just doesn't like. an audience. He doesn't need that to, he can express his art much more clearly, like with nobody around. And obviously he was right. He did.
Yeah. I want to go back to these singers who, are a bit hesitant to come onto stage. Was there ever a time when the orchestra could sense this something's going on? I mean, was there ever just the orchestra became nervous for the people on stage because of what was going on, or was the orchestra just always focused straight ahead?
Well, you notice what's going on the stage. Now, as you know, because you played it in enough pits to know, the orchestra really doesn't care much what happens to the people on the stage. I mean, they wish them the best, but it's not going to change their life, you know.
Hmm.
But you can sense when someone's nervous. Oh, man. Oh, all of them. You can sense all that. I've seen them all nervous, you know. I saw Pavarotti very, very nervous. Very nervous. He was always, well, he's a good example. He's always a nervous wreck. He was always a nervous wreck. I've never seen anything like it. At recording sessions, he'd sit in the corner. He'd be wrapped up in a scarf. He's looking miserable, miserable because he has to be Pavarotti.
Mm.
Like, oh, it's like an ordeal to have, having to do that. Okay, money note, you got it tonight. Is it still there? Well,
Did you ever sense that kind of pressure in the pit?
for myself,
Yes.
oh God, yes, of course. Oh, I'm not like I'll tell you who's like built for playing in an orchestra first trumpet. I'll give you the people. Michael Sachs, um, Hooten, Bilger, Mark Inouye, built for it. Man, they love it. Chris Martin in his way, yes. Less so, less so. I mean, he's great and everything, but I'm not sure how much if he loves it as much as those guys.
Mm.
Michael Sachs, he loves the pressure and doing the thing. I can't say I ever really looked forward to a lot of stuff. I mean, I did it, and you have to be into it to do it, but it's like it never was my thing. It was like too much. I'm worried about worried too much about performance. I mean, there's other things I'm more interested in. I mean, I like to perform. I like to do it. Playing in the orchestra was less fun than other kinds of performing, I got to tell you, because of the pressure. But I mean, and I talk about it in the book, a pharmaceutical orchestra. Everybody's whacking Inderall and everybody's very nervous and they don't want to fuck up in front of their colleagues. It's like it's like it becomes this thing. It's like, well, really? Um, um, no, 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 I don't want to go there. I don't like that. I don't like that vibe at all. I mean, it would be better, like, what the guys used to do to control their nerves was drink.
Mm.
So they were like a lot of alcoholics. And, like on stage, like Stalliano, famous horn player in Boston, played like an angel, but, he had to get the mixture just right, the right amount of alcohol with, and then it could be extraordinary, just beautiful. But then, he might have overdone it once or twice, if you know what I'm saying.
So, okay, but you joined the Met. How were you 16? Do I remember that right? You were 16?
No, 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 no. 25.
25. I was close. I was close. Okay, 25. Still young, especially for an orchestra of that stature, right?
Yes.
Uh, okay, so think about yourself at 25, and then what did you say? 29 years later, 50. Well, I can't do my math. 29 years later,
Right.
if you now you're able to look at both ends of that tenure, compare yourself to who you were when you got there and who you were when you left.
Well, I never went to music school. So I never went to conservatory. So I never studied music like that. I went to school for something else and got out. I was playing. I was always playing a lot of stuff. When I went to school in Boston, I was playing a lot of jazz with blues bands, house band for various stuff. And then I came to New York. I started playing classical music again because I was good when I was a kid. I was a good player. And then started freelancing. And then I just joined the Met as first trumpet. Yeah, it sort of happened like that. It's weird. I mean, it's like an unconventional route for sure. But the opera was exactly the right gig for me. You know, they wanted someone who was like the counterbalance to Mel Broyles.
Well, that's why I was just trying to remember. I think it was at 3 years. You were kind of given the easy stuff. While you were getting your feet wet there.
Yeah, they didn't put you right because Mel always played everything. That was his thing to play the big stuff. So it's like I'm not coming in there and displacing Mel. He was not particularly warm and helpful to his colleague. Let's put it that way. But that was fine. I just had to learn the
Yeah.
gig. So my education came really at the opera of like really studying and learning and watching, some really great conductors and listening to great music and listening to everything, just sort of drinking it all in. That was my music school. And then I sort of had to get the playing thing right, learning, well, what's the trumpet supposed to do in the opera? What's the job? What am I supposed to do in these different pieces? And that takes a while to get that. That takes a while. Really, that takes a while.
Okay, so at some point, right, all of us who are playing an orchestra, we get comfortable enough to the point to where somebody steps on the podium and we're thinking that's not how that goes, right? and it, and sometimes we actually say it out loud. I'm just talking about a friend I have that sometimes opens his mouth too much, in a rehearsal.
Right.
You should, I'm just thinking in your experience at the Met, anybody ever step on the podium where you're like, I don't want to play it that way. That's not the way it goes.
Well, that's interesting you say that. I would say most of the time, the conductor will choose a tempo that's like a little weird or very difficult. But um, the more I came to understand, if the conductor was competent, if they were competent, I'd say, well, all right, I'm going to try to hear it his way and see how he's conducting. Okay, I'll put it here. Maybe he'll like this here. And
Mhm.
as I got more experience, then they were fine with that. They actually appreciated that, where I can anticipate you want it on top of the time. You want to like go ahead a little bit here. I'm sensing if I can steer the boat in a way
Mhm.
that makes sense to the whole thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, in freelance conductors, oh my God, yes, they tell you make a metaphor, like someone will, say, well, it should sound, like walking in a field, and it should, or something. The sound should be some shit, and then it's like, well, I mean, you just sort of like, what are you doing? Gee, that's not, what? Well,
Mhm.
but orchestra players, they think that the conductor's the enemy. And
All of them.
well, yeah,
Hmm.
generally speaking, if it's your boss, and there are some, I've always had good bosses.
Hmm.
Jimmy Levine was a great boss. He was really a great boss.
Hmm.
Real genius, musical genius, great boss.
Hmm.
Very demanding, but he was cool. He didn't really go after anybody.
Hmm.
Never saw him do that,
Hmm.
and he kept his cool, but he was demanding.
So you mentioned that you conduct. When you first got the opportunity to stand on the podium, uh, where was your focus? Were you just on the music, or were you thinking, "I'm going to do it my way"? Finally, what was your intent?
Well, No, I have what I was saying to you before we came on. It's like someone memorizes something and it's in their head, they're hearing it,
Hmm.
but they're not taking into account who's in front of them and how that works when you're doing it with someone else. So that took a while.
Hmm.
At first I would conduct and I thought everybody was playing late, but it was the way I was conducting. I wasn't I wasn't sort of going and I was not able to get things rolling easily. With more experience, then it becomes quite easy.
Hmm.
To get something to move along, you
Hmm.
can get that to go easily. How to do that, how to anticipate that. But yeah, I'm writing now about conducting, and conducting. It's like the best job in the world. They get paid way more money than the musicians. And you imagine, you drop your arms and this voluptuous sound envelops you, and you think you are a god because this angelic outpouring, you think you have something directly to do with this at a certain point. So you feel that you are actually doing this, you are making this sound, and it's going from God's brain to your heart, and you live for art, that sort of thing.
Right.
So, but it's the most fun. I mean, conducting is a lot of fun.
Well,
I
I
mean,
remember the first time I stood on a stage, to do that. I've had a few opportunities, and that first time, that sound, right, just kind of washed over you. It's like, uh, it's invigorating and stimulating. I mean, it's yeah. It's now I don't want to do that all the time. I really enjoy playing, in the back row. I enjoy making music from there, but it really was a fantastic experience.
oh yeah, I mean, it's easier than playing. That's the other. Let's be very clear about that. There's no comparison. It's much easier than playing. I mean, you have this guy. What was his name? He was a guy, this amateur in New York City, very rich guy, and he bought an orchestra and he took conducting lessons because he wanted to conduct Mahler two, or one of I think it was Mahler two. So he learned to conduct Mahler two. Right now, he learned to do that in a year or two. Well, how long would it take him to learn to play the first violin part or the first trumpet part?
Right.
A year or two. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you could sort of
Yeah. I'm still working on the first trumpet part. I'm nowhere close.
on Mahler too.
Yeah. Well, I'm kidding. I mean, none of these regional orchestras are ever going to do anything like that. Nothing that big.
Players, right?
Not enough cycles. I think the band's got to be together more often to pull off that kind of rep.
Well, if the strings can do it, then everybody else you could just knock it off. I mean,
Hmm.
you can do it.
Hmm.
There's no reason that you couldn't do it.
Hmm.
Now,
We're doing. Sorry. Go ahead.
if the string section can play it,
Hmm.
then you could do it. I mean, the wind and brass section most likely could are able to do that just fine. You
Yeah.
know,
Except that with these regional groups, usually we have a Saturday morning dress and a Saturday night concert. So you have to play through the program uh, twice on Friday. You have a Friday double and then a double on Saturday. So imagine playing Mahler 2 4 times in 2 days.
well, what you playing it in the morning? Is there people at the dress rehearsal on
Oh,
Saturday?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, so you're playing two performances. So you're doing bang bang four in a row. That's tough.
It is tough.
That's tough. That's yeah, because you could get a little bit hurt, you'd be a little banged up.
Well, the conductor says, on the dress rehearsals, you can take it down and, lay out, let your assistant do whatever. And of course, that never really happens. We always still go full throttle on there. So, hey, there's a comment here, Andrew Davids. Oh, this goes back to an earlier comment. You said you guys were doing the best you could. I can only dream of being that good. Yeah, Andrew, thank you for that comment. Um, I want to go back. It will take a little bit of a left turn. I want to go back to the book
Okay,
that
sorry.
you. No, it's this is good. But I do want to give real attention to this because it's like Whiff Rudd's book that just came out.
Mhm.
It's full of stuff that it's like this should be on every musician's bookshelf. It should be in every music studio's required reading. And it's full of experience. I think really that's what it comes down to. It's valuable experience right at everybody's fingertips.
Mhm.
So how did this come about?
Well, I started working on this. I was talking to my friend Alan Colin. Colin lip flexible, so he sort of lives nearby. He's an old friend, and he said, "Why don't you write, a book, a music book, write etudes or something?" He wanted me to. I said, "I don't really want to do that sort of book." So then I started to write this thing in the pandemic. This is great. Now I have an excuse never to see anybody. This is wonderful. For me now. I mean, I don't. Oh, sorry, I don't want to die. I can't see you. Now it's loosening up. It's going to be, I'll have less time. So I had a lot of time. So every day I get up and write. And I worked on it with a former student, Toby Pank, went to Juilliard.
Mm.
He's now in another field. Great trumpet player, but he's a very literate guy. So I would send him copy, and he would send back some stuff, comments, and so it went through it. It took about 8 months to write it, and
Wow.
I wanted to include a little bit about me, a little bit about what I experienced and what I learned, over all these years, and then teaching. I taught at Juilliard for 37 years, so and all the great players who came through there, that's a trip. The number of really fine musicians who go through there. And I was good at teaching at that level. That was a good level for me. That's good at people at a certain point. Sometimes the less you do, the better that is. You
And
don't.
it's interesting you say that because, I've talked to Ben Wright, I've talked to Brandon Ridenauer, and you have come up in the interviews about the way those lessons were structured. And it doesn't sound like any traditional university applied experience. I mean, it was, and I think Brandon, this might be, tell me if I'm wrong on this. Brandon said there were some times where he would just come in, like you would just talk
Oh
your
yeah,
way through, right? No playing.
yeah. But you see here how Brandon Ridenauer plays the trumpet. He played the trumpet like that. So um, I have no comment on his trumpet playing that wouldn't be damaging.
Hmm.
I mean, if I say, well, I think you should sound like this, well, no, he doesn't need to hear that.
No.
Sounds pretty good. He's at the point where he's chosen to play like he plays.
Hmm.
I mean,
And it's
we might
terrific.
the swing of something. We might talk about the phrasing of something, go back and forth. I mean, like that. But
Hmm.
you know, trumpet basics. Yeah, we would talk about trumpet stuff. Like, well, like an exercise? Let's say, take an exercise. How would ask? How would you practice this exercise? How are you practicing it? Let me hear you play it. And I'll say, well, I hear that you're doing this here. Maybe this could be. This sounds like a bump over here. This is, I don't know. What are you hearing? I'm feeling. You feel that? Feel that? We go back and forth. I'm not saying with Brandon, but with other people.
Sure.
Ben Wright that's a different story, with Ben. You know, Ben Ben he was auditioning for orchestras for like I don't know, it seemed like 50 years. He would keep auditioning. He would be in Washington, then Chicago Symphony, then he goes to Boston, but he would always win. He'd always win the auditions. And then he ran out of auditions, and I think he went completely crazy. He's stark raving mad naked around Symphony Hall in Boston with his trumpet, No, it's a joke, It's for
Yeah,
my
of course. I'm going to see Ben tomorrow, so I'll tell him you said that.
like that I said that live that he's been running
Oh
around.
yeah, it's there for all posterity.
Hear that about Benny.
And, David Wolf, a friend of mine and a former student, a trumpet player here in Indy. Of course, I think I introduced him to your Mahler 5
Right,
video, so he's making a comment there. Hey, David, welcome. Glad you're here. David shows up to all these things.
right,
He's another trumpet nerd.
right.
Uh, yeah, but okay. So back to the book. Well, actually, before back to the book, I want to talk about teaching because in 37 years of teaching, uh, what were you? What teachers of yours were you channeling? What experiences that you brought from your well, I'm trying to think. Well, all your teachers.
Well, when I was younger, I studied with Robert Nagel, and Robert Nagel, Stravinsky's favorite trumpet player. But I thought he was sort of a shitty teacher, and he didn't play enough for me. He only played when he was going out on the road with the brass quintet. Then he would play a little bit in lessons, and that was fantastic
Mm.
to hear him play. What a great, great player. He's of the level of Bud Herseth. That's how well he played the trumpet.
Wow.
He was something else. But he never, I don't know. For me at that time, when I think back to that time, I feel it's a bad feeling, not because of him, because of me, because I was not ready. I was just going too fast. I was, doing a lot of stuff, and I was that guy, going,
Mhm.
so I didn't
So
get
had
it as I needed, as I wanted.
so how'd you slow down? Who slowed you down?
Well, I didn't slow down. That's the problem. Now I'm an old man. I still haven't slowed down. I
That's
mean,
good.
well, in a way, I haven't slowed down. I'm still, my brain has not slowed down.
Have you been teaching through all this?
Very little, very little. I do some classes,
Hmm.
and I have a few students from time to time.
Hmm.
But I'm not. I don't need to do the Zoom. I do. I still have one student. I do the Zoom, but it's rough. The Zoom is rough. Yeah, it's rough. Just because it's like not in the same room. It's like not the. And if they're students of a certain level, they need to be in a room where someone plays the trumpet for them, and so they get to hear it.
Hmm.
Oh, it's supposed to sound like that. So they will, if they're talented, they inhale that stuff. You hear it go, oh, like that. I get it. Really listening.
So when they're coming to you at Juilliard, though, I mean, they're at the point to where uh, they don't need any of that fundamental stuff, right? I mean, they're at a level where you can really start to address musical issues from the beginning, right?
Well, I'd say that's not altogether true, because when you get to a certain level, then fundamental practice, you see the profundity of simple exercises,
Mm.
of really establishing simple exercises. So I would say there's a lot of discussion about that. Really, a lot of discussion about working scales, how to, how are you doing this? You're working your arpeggios, being able to play up and down, up and down. I mean, that's sort of it, isn't it?
Right?
And sort of like to hear a sound where it's like, oh, that sounds like it's in the middle of the sound.
Hmm.
It's not, flat, or it's like sort of everything sort of working, your tongue, your position, it's sort of going, it's like a
Hmm.
going coming out of you.
Hmm.
So I think that, yes, and Tony Plogue talks about this, about the profundity of simple exercises. But that doesn't come when someone's 18. When
Right?
they're 21, 22, they can do that. They can do that. Now, I'm not sure. Like, I know Phil Smith, his father would rap him on the knuckles, I think, if he made a mistake. But, that was like a rough thing. And I'm not sure what Winton did, but they made Winton practice. I mean, it was like practice time, you
Yeah.
know. So, they had that discipline very,
Hmm.
but of course, I mean, look at the talent. So,
So are you practicing these days?
well, I threaten to some days. I mean, I try to play a little bit every day, but I'm not really practicing. I'll play through a couple of tunes, maybe
Hmm.
play a scale, just to keep it on my face. But I'm not performing.
Hmm.
If I go to perform, I play a tune or something. It's not. I'm not going to play the Tomasi Concerto or the Brandenburg.
Right.
Those days
But
are.
but you're not retired. I mean, you might be retired from the Met, but you still intend to play and teach.
Yeah, some. I mean, not you play, teach, be involved in music with projects, producing, blah 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 blah. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm active. As an artist. Yes,
Yeah.
I would say. I still make videos. I made one this year called "Oh White Boys." I wrote the lyrics, little trumpet on that. I play and
Yeah.
sing. I should send that one to you.
Oh, I'd love to see it. It's funny. I've always told people, I'm going to play taps at my own funeral. That's how long it's going to be. I'm going to play till I die. But that's kind of changed. I didn't realize that my own goals were going to evolve. And now I'm into the Suzuki trumpet thing,
Huh.
really into, starting to really look at teaching like 4 and 5 year old kids,
By
how to do this.
by ear.
Yes. Yes.
That's a big thing to get someone. Okay, play this note. Good. Play this note. Play this note. Okay.
Yeah. So I just finished this course and it's terrific. It's just like all the other Suzuki violin stuff, and they do start to read at a certain point. But the point of that really is, I I always thought I was going to play trumpet and only trumpet. That's all I was going to focus on. And it's funny, how life starts to take these turns. And it's like, in 10 years, what if I'm not playing trumpet anymore? What if I'm just focused on, teaching? I don't know where that's going to lead to.
Yeah. I mean, it changes. I mean, of course, when I was younger, I would want to play trumpet all the time, all day, just show up and play. It didn't matter what it was. I'd play anything. Wow, chance to play
Mm.
the. Oh, that's great. Now, I mean, those days are gone. You know, so that's not as interesting for me. It's like I'd like to see younger people doing stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
Oh,
certainly not going to take a gig like, oh, you want to go play this? Well, no.
yeah.
How about this guy? He's great. I already did that. I don't need to do that anymore. It's not, it's like, okay, let somebody else do it. And I'll stick to writing and making stuff. So,
Yeah. And speaking of writing, I want to go back to I don't know if it was your first book, but Orchestra Confidential. Was that your first book?
yes, that was the first one.
Yeah, that was terrific. I don't have a graphic. I should have loaded a graphic for that one, but we'll get back to that one in a second. So, I told you up front that the two things that impressed me in this book were, oh, there you go. Yeah, very tongue in cheek, but hilarious.
But very true.
Well, here's the thing. I find that everybody finds it funny except for the chapter about them.
Oh, no, even then they have to find that funny. Not true. That's not true. They have to find it funny. Violin section, stand partners. Are you kidding me? Oh my God. Like a section. Imagine that. I described that in the book going through music school. First, you start as Suzuki, you're on the violin and you're doing that. And then you get pretty good. Okay, you play, like little groups and like a little orchestra. But then you go to music school and you study solo repertoire and chamber music and all the great things. And then you wind up in the orchestra with 31 other people playing your part, your notes. And you have to get along and deal with that. And you're holding in your hand a fiddle that you took out a fourth mortgage on your house to buy yourself an instrument. Right. So I mean it's sort of funny. I mean it's humorous. And the
But it's
guy
true.
getting paid, 30 times what you're making, drops his arms and it's like coming out of him from God to him. It's great. I mean, it's like a bad joke. I had a great time writing this because, I was like working with Jeff Kernow on the Philly Orchestra. He did all the illustrations.
Yeah.
He's great. He's a great cartoonist. So that was
Yeah,
fun.
he actually did the logo for Studio HFL. I don't have it up right now, but he did my logo for me.
Oh, nice. That's
Yeah,
nice.
Jeff's a great guy. Um, Yeah, well, my wife is a violinist. I can't remember if I showed her that section in that book, but I may have to let her read that again and get her reaction. Really pay attention this time.
Yeah, I'm sort of offended that, you haven't bought a copy specifically for your wife, to read.
I did. I've yet to gift it to her. That's just the thing. I've got to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Back to this one. Risk. Talking about risk, and maybe I heard you even say this on another podcast. You're just talking about how you listen to trumpet players these days, and everything just sounds good, sounds safe, right? But it's like,
Well,
where's
I
where's
would,
the edge?
well, I wouldn't say it's the trumpet players. It's like the level of playing in orchestras now is just beyond the beyond. It's so good. Like in all the sections, all the way back, everywhere, it's always really good. So I figure if they play that well, and they didn't play that well 50 years ago in the orchestra, they couldn't play it wasn't as all the way back through the section.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody couldn't make it. But in that, it's like sort of contained. I always feel like going to an orchestra concert, it's a little too contained. I would like it way less contained. That's all. So it's not like individual player taking a risk. Well, on the trumpet, you sort of have to, calculate the odds. I mean, you can take a risk, but it's like, maybe not that one. You're not feeling it this time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's good to take risk. Mel Broyles took risk. He would do stuff. Bud Herseth would take risk like the trumpet was going to break. Sax plays more like that. It's like more in that style. I love it. You know.
So I think I heard this part on a podcast, one of your interviews, but yeah, you would listen to people coming into Juilliard, all right,
Right.
and you could tell if they could turn a phrase, right. You could tell immediately whether you were going to take them or not
For me, yeah, that was
for
interesting.
yourself.
Yeah, I mean, there are other players who came in like really great and athletic, and you had to take them. Maybe they'd be less interesting to me, it was like sort of. But I feel like when I was there, it was like, for the end of that time, the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years, when Ray Mace is there. Ray Mace is a chamber musician, and he's also interested in someone. Oh, okay, can you turn a phrase? I mean, if you could, I don't really care if someone 18 could bang out the Honegger and Trotta. I mean, it's not. I mean, okay. I mean, a lot of people get hurt
Yeah.
practicing Honegger and Trotta. They get hurt. It's like, what are you doing? Like figuring out how to do that. You know. Well, you know what I mean. You must
Yeah.
see. You must see it. You talk about
Uh,
the man who plays in the Muncie Orchestra, the farmer.
oh
So
yeah.
right, if you said, okay, you have to learn this, the Honegger and Trotta, he could come back. Maybe he wouldn't be able to play after that. His playing would be all messed up. He could be. I'm not saying.
Hmm. Hmm.
Maybe he could, kill it. But you know what I'm saying? It's like that.
I do. One of the cool things, of course, about YouTube is, you get to listen to great performances, but you also get to watch. And one of my favorite people to watch these days, of course, is Hookon, coming out with all the Charliers. And of course, I love the way he plays. I love the way he sounds, but I like watching him too. It's like, oh, that's what efficient playing looks like, right? I mean, it's just, he seems relaxed, everything flows. I don't know if you would agree with that. You don't have to agree with that, but that's the
How could
value to me of YouTube, being able to see it.
I not agree with that? You know what I mean? I mean, if you see it, it's like, well, okay. I mean, I couldn't stand up at any point in my life and play one Charlier etude after. And the other guy's Jim Wilt in Los Angeles.
Oh, right.
And then other things that I've heard, I said, wow, what's his name? The guy in somewhere in Eastern Europe. can't remember his name. Just beautiful, beautiful playing.
Mm.
Wilt, knocking out one etude after another. So I mean, and I've told him this, that I actually hate him for that. Like a great jealousy and envy.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Pink Baby Monster.
Yes.
Where'd that come from?
Well, this is our 20th year of existence.
Congratulations.
We're doing a film this summer. It's like a retrospective. We're going to go through that. Should be. I think it'll be great. It'll be very funny. We're looking forward to it. So we're meeting out there in Oregon. We're going to spend a couple of weeks doing this. So, but Pink Baby Monster started on September 9th, 2001. And I was hanging out with a friend of mine, an artist, an old friend of mine, visual artist, and we were just hanging out one Sunday, and he said, we should do something. How would you just sum up the American culture? And he said, well, I think maybe Pink Baby Monster, this baby who's like naive, voracious, insatiable, spooging all over the world. This, right? And then 2 days later, they fly the plane into the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
And everybody reacted. Most people, how could they do that to us? America, we're so good and innocent. Well, there's a lot of American soldiers and military stuff going on all over the world. So you could see how someone may take a little bit of, be very resentful of it. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they're naive. Really? America is freedom and goodness. And, well, okay. I mean, maybe if you lived in Yemen, you wouldn't say that.
Yeah, a whole different
Maybe
perspective.
in Serbia, you wouldn't say that, or if you lived somewhere else in Central America, you wouldn't necessarily say that. There's the good and the bad. In any case, so at that point, it became very serious. So then, because I was getting annoyed that people, well, don't you understand Pink Baby Monster? It's like, you get it. Someone, wanted to do something harmful to us. They committed a mass murder, and then, so then Pink Baby Monster started. We recorded an album. We made an album, which I think is, where is it? Somewhere.
What would you call that style?
Well, it's like, it's shining. It's
There you
shining.
go. Yeah.
Well, it's like hip hop influenced, electronica influenced. There's a lot of trumpet playing on it. So we did all the music, and I wrote all the lyrics. I wrote this whole thing and produced it with Brian McWhorter. I think it's on Spotify. I think it's a good record. I think it's an interesting record. I'm very proud of that work. But after that, I didn't want to do politics anymore. It was sort of political, because it's like, the only way to get things across is if you're funny. If it's funny, people will look at it. So you're not banging someone over the head with it. Not that I think the record was banging anybody over the head with it, but and we did the record, and then we made a video. I Live for Art. There's a track on the record.
Mm-hmm.
It's electronic. It's I Live for Art, and we did a video that actually got won some awards. It got played all over in some art exhibitions, but then we got in trouble at Juilliard because they pulled it. It was before we invaded Iraq. I Live for Art, and it's the music is Tosca, from Tosca. Okay, Lucio Vanestella, the Uri and the last act of Tosca. And it was that over I Live for Art, and it's the planes going into the building. So it's a commentary on Karl-Heinz Stockhausen, said that's the greatest work of art in the history of the world, is that, because look, billions of people saw that. And it played over and over, and it was like something like, holy shit, you just can't believe it. And then these things, right?
Yeah.
This thing, it's operatic, beyond operatic, and it's and its horror, the scope of it, and how it changed the world after that. It changed the world. That event was world changing. That we saw it. It's like captured on all these cameras. It's an extraordinary moment.
Mhm.
You don't
So
have
why pull the video, right? I mean, what was the point behind that?
for them to pull it out of because they were afraid that it would be a danger to some of the students there. No, they didn't. They didn't want to put it on in a show. So I mean, they pulled it. The newspaper wrote about it. It's like sort of
Mm,
it was like a big mess. It's like a big mess that I really didn't want to get into that.
yeah.
But believe me, I get into more messes all the time. If I do make videos, and the videos I've made, I mean, it's gotten me in hot water.
Well, I noticed Petrushka's not out there anymore.
Right? That there's reasons we had to pull that down, but um, that may go back up. We'll see. I
I
mean,
mean, talk about edgy, right? But I saw all the humor in that.
well, it's very fun. It's supposed to be funny. It's a parody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did it.
Well, I hope it goes back up at some point. Um, so what about the stuff coming out this year? How does that compare to where you started 20 years ago? Kind of in the same groove, same ideas, or maybe not same ideas, but same focus.
Um, well, I did one old white boys,
Hmm.
and it's to the tune "Everyone Knows About Old White Boys" of Old Folks. Just like taxes, they don't ever go away. They get lots of stuff, but it's never enough. Yada 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 yada.
Hmm.
This sort of thing, and then I play some trumpet, and it's like sort of referring to myself too, because I'm an old white boy myself. Now I'm an old man, so I think it's very funny because look who we got. We had Donald Trump and Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, Nancy Pelosi. Everybody's 80.
Hmm.
They're older than I am.
Hmm.
What is going on? Right? It's like sort of this thing is fading away. I mean, I don't know what comes after it is any better, but maybe something will be better. Maybe.
Maybe you should run for president.
I mean, I already did that. Didn't you see my campaign?
No, are you serious?
Yeah, yeah, we did it in what was it, 2012. And that's right. I did a thing like "Fuck You, I Got Mine." That was the tune. That was my campaign song.
What you need is somebody to organize a super PAC for you, right? It's like,
Yeah, thank you, Larry. Thank you for volunteering.
yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. You know, just I also have to be in charge of payroll, right? Um, so I can't imagine that title's not going to be controversial, right? It's going to kind of stir the pot.
well, it's an old video. We did this thing. It's called "I Got Mine." That's the name of the tune. Is "I Got Mine."
Mm-hmm.
We put it out.
Yeah,
Good. It's like
yeah. Same people involved, Brian and who else?
Brian, but there's a cast. The what's that group of the four horn players called? Genghis Barbie.
Never
Genghis,
heard of him.
these four women who played the French horn, and they were in it. My son Sam was in it when he was like 12 years old. He was in it dressed just as I was in a white suit.
Hmm.
Mini me. So we did that video. I got
Yeah,
mine. I like that one.
yeah. Um, is your son still a musician? Well,
No,
maybe you didn't say he was a musician. You just said he was in the video. Is
is
he
it?
a musician?
Well, he plays. He's a good pianist,
Hmm.
but he's just finishing Harvard. He's going to MIT for a doctoral program in computational biochemistry. So he went in a different way.
Holy cow!
Yeah,
He's going to make more in his first year than you made your entire career with the Met, right?
could be. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Are you still in touch with your colleagues from the Met? I mean, not all of them, sure, but
See Pete Bond every week or many weeks, and we have a Zoom call. We all get together.
hmm
And Pandolfi was on. I saw him. But
hmm
yes, I'm in touch with those guys, those trumpet players. Yes, I'm in.
hmm
Yes.
You know, to be a fly on the wall all those years and overhear what was going on in that trumpet section, I think that would be the best book, the best play, the best. Well, you could make an opera out of that, right?
Oh, I mean, you have to understand that Jim Pandolfi was in that section. So when he was in there, then Pete Bond came in the orchestra after Jim Pandolfi.
Mhm.
So Pete Bond sat between me and Jim Pandolfi. So that was an education for him. It was very funny. We'd be going back and forth. I mean, it depends. Pandolfi's very very funny. But every time I speak to him now, I said, Jim, got to get this out of the way. You're the greatest trumpet player on earth. Okay, now we can talk. I always tell him, you're the greatest, man. You're the greatest. Yeah, thanks, Mark. Thanks, Mark.
Was that prerequisite for actually being able to have a conversation?
Well, that's our joke.
Oh, okay, I got it, got it. So, well, it's nice to know that you're still well. I mean, active is not the right word for it. I mean, you've been writing this. Has this been selling pretty well for you?
Yes, it's actually doing very well. The feedback has been fantastic. I mean, people are really enjoying reading it.
hmm
You can open up anywhere and just start reading. So it's there's a lot of stuff in there. You talked about on swing. There's stuff on teaching advanced students, on teaching not so advanced students. So I think
Yeah,
I'm very gratified by the reception it's received.
I thought the book was over, and then I get to the appendix, and it's
Right,
like that was some of the best reading, right? And in fact, I just opened to the genius of Mel Broyles,
right.
right? And that in itself, uh, uh, well, I mean, it's not a short story, right? But all brilliant writing. It's just kind of funny that you made it an appendix. Uh,
Well,
I didn't know why it was.
I wanted to put it in there. Now it was reprinted from an ITG journal, so I had put it in there, and it's been making the rounds. It's been around, so I
Hmm,
figured, okay, I'll stick it in here. Talk about someone who was like a great character.
right.
A character. There are very few characters like that anymore. So Mel Broyles. I mean, you could ask like all the guys who played with him. Jim Pandolfi and Pete Bond and Jim Ross. They have a lot of stories about Mel, and it's like they're blown away by Mel. Mel is just such a character. What a character. Oh my goodness.
So once he was gone, did you ever have anybody come in, a conductor come in and ask for that? Mel was gone. Could you deliver what Mel used to deliver?
Well, no, I mean, I didn't play like that, but I mean, I could play Wozzeck, Salome, Electro. I mean, I could play this stuff. Now, when he played it, when he was at his height, I loved hearing him play that stuff. Wow. Playing Electra, I mean, really, really exciting. Just beautiful, exciting. That stuff is written for him.
And it's not just the volume, right?
Oh no, he was just it was just the whole thing, the energy, the playing. I mean, he was quite something. He was really quite something. Now I didn't have to play with him very much. The other guys,
hmm hmm
you know,
You think about playing an opera. There's an awful lot of time to sit, right?
yes.
And then being able to channel that kind of energy after you've sat for 20, 30, 40 or more minutes. I
Well,
mean, that's
Mel used to sit there and count measures.
mm,
Mel would sit there and he would be paying attention. Everybody else would be like, fidgeting, looking at reading, or
mhm,
that sort of thing. It's just like, oh boy, yeah, you're 40 minutes. You'd leave the pit if you have 45 minutes.
mhm.
come back in, when you have to play, but not Mel. Mel was there. Mel was on it. He was the captain of that ship.
Well, down to the stroke, right? I mean, they literally carried him out of the pit.
That's right.
Yeah.
But he came back after that.
I know, but I mean, that talk about dedication. He said he had a stroke, but then they propped him back up in the chair and he finished
That,
finished the.
oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, unreal.
yeah, it is unreal.
Unreal.
Um, so not to put you on the spot, but did you ever miss an entrance?
Did I ever miss an entrance? Oh God.
have
I mean,
you got a list?
oh, they're infamous moments, infamous moments of missing entrances. Many over the years, some of them really bad.
Mm.
I mean, there was a time when they forgot to call the stage band up to the stage. And we ran backstage. The backstage conductor's absolutely flipping out. Where the fuck are you guys? God damn. Few people, straggle in and maybe play a couple notes.
Yeah,
But yes, I've missed entrances.
yeah. I mean,
Oh,
it's going to happen. Of course, it's going to happen.
oh, it's going to happen. Now,
Yeah.
the hardest things to, I've never missed an entrance in Wagner. Wagner, you got to sort of, when you play, Wagner is in a certain way the most difficult things to play. Because as you say, you sit there for 45 minutes and then you have to be pulling the sword out of the tree. That's you playing the sword mode of ba bam, bam, ba bam, bam, bam. And it always feels horrible because everything has been going and you're like cold and you're hearing like a sort of a C major chord tremoloing behind you, and it's like, well, you maybe subtly want to adjust to some pitch you're feeling. So that was funny. So I mean, it's hard. So Pandolfi asked me, well, how do you prepare for Wagner? He said, what do you practice? I said, the best thing is don't practice at all. Practice very, very little because you have to be able, fresh enough that you feel you can pick it up and it's going to come out. Notes are going to speak. Because you might have to come in and play something very soft, but it's exposed. You're playing stuff that's exposed. So it was like that. Don't.
I, favorite composer? I'm a big fan of Puccini, but do you had favorite composer that you played over the years?
Yeah, I love the Puccini. I loved the Puccini and the Verdi the most, and Mozart.
Mm-hmm.
The Strauss operas parts I really like.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now to listen to him. I mean, I get that it's a fun challenge to play a Strauss opera because it's like jumping over hurdles.
Mm.
It's not like you get to the next hurdle. It's like some awkward thing or like a little interjection that's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's like, well, that's not really particularly fun. Frauenschat, the woman without a shadow. That one's kind of fun to play. There's a lot to play, and there's this beautiful chorale at the end of the first act, extended, long, that goes on for a long, long time. It's hard, but it's fun. Nice to play stuff like that.
I hear you and Peter talk about, oh, the aria at the end of this or this part of this opera, and I'm thinking, in the orchestral world, it's like we really are two separate things. It's like you could ask me about a Mahler symphony or something like that, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. But
Right.
you guys, it seems like your favorite parts to talk about are not necessarily always the best trumpet parts. It's like, you're talking about the melodic line or the solo, however you want to say it, in the soprano aria here.
Oh yeah, the music. I mean, you start to get to enjoy the music. You're in the theater.
Mhm.
Working in the Met is working in the theater. I mean, over the years, I mean, I got to know all the stage hands and all the people who would work backstage, on and on and on, all the dressers, everybody. It's like a gigantic place,
Hmm.
the electrical department, this department, this department. And they're all around and they're in the cafeteria yet. So it's like 1,000 people work there. So, there's a lot of people coming in all the time. So you're just one little part of this big machine.
Yeah.
You're doing your gig. So,
Yeah.
and everybody knows what they're supposed to do. And it's amazing how well it runs.
Hmm.
I mean, it
Have you
really,
been back? Sorry,
oh,
have you been back since you retired? Yeah.
I like to go to the opera. I like to go as a spectator in the audience member. Oh, I love it. I don't
Do
miss.
you?
I don't sit there. Wow, I wish I could play that. No, no,
Yeah.
I'm enjoying the opera, enjoying the
Do you?
music. Or if
Do
I
you
go,
let the guys know that you're there?
no, no. I mean, I just go. I don't. I'm not hanging out down there. Hey,
Hmm.
that's enough. Now it's been a long time, so most everybody's gone
Yeah.
from when I was there.
Yeah.
But it's great. I mean, it's like the Met. I would think this. We're sitting in the pit, so I'm sitting. That job is like sitting in the exact same geographical location for year after year. And if I went back 100 years ago, when they premiered Tosca at the Met, it would feel the same way
Mm.
and essentially in the same place, playing out of the same part, playing the same part. So it's like, oh, okay. So it's like, Rip Van Winkle, go to sleep, you wake up and you're still
Right.
playing. But it was great. We didn't play, it was not like a Broadway show where you play the same exact thing year after year. But so, things would come in and out of the repertoire.
Yeah.
But I always liked the Puccini. I loved the Puccini. It was nice.
Well, I think I'm drawn to that just because it's so fluid. That's the best way I can describe it. It's just so fluid.
It's so. I last year or a couple of years ago, I went to see Madame Butterfly at the Met, and it's a beautiful production, and the music, and the marriage of the music and the libretto is just perfect and genius, beautifully written and orchestrated, beautiful tunes. It's just man, it's like very, very high level stuff. It's the best ticket in town, to go to the Met, see something like that.
Some of the newer stuff that's been written, anything uh, really bend your ear? Boy, I sound old when I say that.
Yeah. I haven't seen too many new things. I didn't see Nico
Mm-hmm.
Muley's thing. I didn't go at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember why I didn't, but I was not involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
What else? No, I mean there were some things I saw. I saw the Nose. They did a new production of Shostakovich's The Nose. I didn't care for that so much.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like the production. I think the music it goes on too long, but they should
So we.
appoint me music director. Let me. I'll do it.
Well, there may be an opening at some point, right?
Oh boy,
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, I know that's. I don't think you'd want to show up for all the extra rehearsals, right? It
extra
wouldn't it be fun just to show up there for the performance and do the gig, right?
as a player.
Well, as or a conductor. I mean,
I mean, to come hold and conduct the opera.
yeah.
That sounds like a great deal of fun. Me,
Okay.
that would be tough. Now, a symphony orchestra, that would be fun. That's much easier. Opera, you actually have to, you know, keep things
Oh,
going.
yeah. Yeah.
Able to coordinate the stage in the pit. You actually have to do a job.
Right.
Symphony, not so much, not as
Yeah.
much.
Uh, we'll wrap up here, but Brandon Ridenauer, his dad, Rich, piano player, um, they came and one of the regional groups I play with, they were doing a performance. Well, it was a time when we had just moved our downbeat from 8 p.m. to 7:30 p.m.
Oh boy.
So 7:30 comes and our music director is not even in the building. And so Rich just stands up. They come on out and he stands up in front of the orchestra, and off we go. And about halfway through the tune, our music director walks onto stage. Of course, big applause. Big smile on his face, and of course, everything was fine. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, that could happen. You walk in cold, or anybody really could start the anybody could start the bus and start driving, right?
Yes, they could.
Yeah.
And you could conduct an opera at the Met if you didn't know what you're doing, if the right personnel was there, people who knew
Hmm.
the tune. Yes, you could do it. But it wouldn't be easy. Like if you had to go in and sight read at the Met, something like Tosca, that would be tough. If
Yeah.
you were a player, because everybody knows it, you don't. All the little subdivisions, and it's very confusing.
Yeah. I'm sure I would step in every hole. Yeah.
They,
So, hey, Mark, I know we kind of bopped around on different things back and forth to the book and whatnot, but I think we covered some really cool stuff. I feel like got to know you a little bit better. Looking forward to some of this new stuff coming out too. And you've got to send me. When's it coming out, or is it already out? The Old White Boys.
yeah, that's already out. I think it's on YouTube. I think it's on YouTube. Old White.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
it's the Monster one. I did it.
Okay. Well, I'll check that out. But thanks for taking the time to be here. I really appreciate it.
Great pleasure. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So hang on for just a second. I'll wrap things up here. Um, so everybody that tuned in and is going to listen to this after the fact, thanks for joining us. Of course, this interview as well as the others in April, uh, sponsored by Austin Custom Brass and Trent Austin. Be sure to check them out. Oh, we got a couple of late comments here. Joel on trumpet, this was excellent. Noel Tredick Gosling, stellar interview, enjoyed it immensely. We string players love Puccini also. Uh, Noel Gosling, you may know Dan Gosling, Chop Saver.
Right, right.
Yeah. So thank you, Noel, for your comment. Joel on trumpet, Bobby Haggerty, David, Andrew, thanks for watching, chiming in, tuning in. Let's see. Anything else? Go to studiohfl.com if you want to subscribe to the newsletter. And the next live interview is this coming Sunday night, 8 p.m. with Gabriel DiMartino. That should be a lot of fun. And thanks again to our guest, Mark. And we'll see everybody around.